mind bender for you. American scientists have just proven time travel, sort of. Just imagine this. Imagine sending out a probe to the nearest star system, Proxima Centauri for example, to go and have a look and see whether there are aliens or any kind of alien life, or just go and see this habitable planet and see whether or not there's anything there. Now normally you'd have to wait thousands of years for the images to come back. Imagine though if you could see the things that you want to see, like tomorrow. This is the idea behind time mirrors, which sounds very science fiction-y, but it's actually just been proven in a lab. So let's start with what was discovered, and then we'll get into some of the really crazy stuff that really could happen very soon. So scientists at the City University of New York in America have created this metamaterial. I'll go into a bit more detail on what that means in a minute, but using this metamaterial, they were able to reverse electromagnetic waves in a lab. Now, although they haven't done it with matter just yet, they have sort of pierced that hole in reality that opens the gateway for people to travel through it, I think. And I'll explain in this video how I think that's going to be possible in the very, very near future. You may have seen on this channel before videos about time travel where people have previously claimed that they are time travelers, or that time travel will be invented in the year 2030 or whatever. I don't think that's too unreasonable to assume that that might actually happen now. Are you seeing some of the crazy stuff that's going around at the moment in the scientific community? If not, check out this video all the way through to the end, because I've got some really massive revelations for you that will probably melt your mind a little bit, and I think you're going to find it quite difficult to believe some of this actually true information. So in theory, could we send images back from a distant star using that technology to send images back in time using the electromagnetic spectrum? In theory, yes. Okay, so that's an electromagnetic wave and it travels back in time. Big whoop, who cares? If we just send information back in time, that isn't going to change anything. Or is it? Well, let's imagine that we send something forward in time, then it bounces back and it comes backwards in time and it goes a bit further than the person who originally sent it in the first place, and then they decode it and then they re-encode it and then they read it 6 years before it was sent maybe. That could change the whole stock market or the national lottery or any kind of future result. And so scientists are now starting to look into causation loops and how that could potentially spring off other universes. So it starts to melt the mind a little bit, the implications of just sending information. But what about physically traveling in time, like using your flux capacitor and your DeLorean and actually going backwards in time? On this channel previously, I've recorded this video, which is all about ghosts, but it does talk about how time travel could be problematic because we're moving in space as well as in time. Okay, but that's not really an issue for these time mirrors, because the mirrors start from where they are and then they go backwards in time from there, and they sort of travel at that sort of speed. So if we could do a similar sort of thing with matter, we might not experience that time, but we might go backwards in time and sort of unexperience stuff. The issue with time travel, if that's the way that you're going to do it, is that you wouldn't necessarily be conscious of the fact that you have gone back in time in the past already. Which means that if someone has invented time travel, we wouldn't know about it because they wouldn't know about it. So you need some sort of conscious filter to make sure that you still know that you are travelling backwards in time, and it would need to be insulated from that time effect itself. So you wouldn't be able to write yourself a note and keep it in your pocket, because as you travel backwards in time, that note's ink would unwrite itself. So let's take a scenario. If I were to go backwards in time, let's say an hour, I suddenly invent time travel, I suddenly work out how to do it, and then I go, okay, well let's just test it and go back in time 1 hour to before I invented time travel so I can help myself out. Good in theory, but what happens then is that I go backwards in time. Every process that happens inside my brain gets undone because I'm going backwards in time. Maybe I write myself a note to remind myself that I have gone back in time, but that note would then start to unwrite itself as I travel back in time. So let's assume that there is some sort of stopgap to say, let's stop after an hour, otherwise I'll go back all the way through to the early 2000s and then the 90s and then the 80s, and then I'll disappear altogether. Let's just assume for a second that I can stop after 1 hour. what happens then? Well, then my brain suddenly switches back into what I'm in at the moment, except that I wouldn't have had that previous hour, so I wouldn't know that I have travelled backwards in time. We've also got the issue that as I'm travelling back, I'm travelling in the body that I'm in at the moment, meaning that I wouldn't have actually travelled forward in time because I've undone that hour. So it's not like I'm going back and there would be another iteration of me. And this gets over the grandfather paradox because, first of all, I could travel in time. There's nothing in Einstein's theories to say that I couldn't do that, but I wouldn't be able to know about it, and I wouldn't have any evidence that would be able to sustain or insulate itself from the time effect. So even if I wrote a note, even if I put a voice message on my phone, everything would erase as I go backwards in time. So the conservation of energy and conservation of momentum would still hold at that sort of physical level and that mathematical level, because as I'm travelling backwards in time, I'm undoing all of those things that I created during the hour that I've skipped over. Hopefully all of that sort of stuff makes sense to you, but essentially what will happen is that even if you try to send something backwards in time, that thing will be undone. However, with time mirrors, that's not the case, because anyone outside of the system will be able to observe that signal. So what scientists in New York are hoping is that they can get over the time delay of sending information long distances, like to Mars, for example. When we start to colonize Mars, which hopefully we're going to be able to do, there will be a time delay, and depending on where the Earth is in relation to Mars, because Mars could be a very, very long way away, or it could be a lot closer. It could be multiple minutes delay between us sending the message to Mars and then them getting it, and then them sending it back to us. So it could be even as much as half an hour delay between us sending something and getting a response back from Mars. And that's just not acceptable. Now, we have the speed limit of the speed of light, which means that we can't go any faster than the speed of light. But if we can manipulate time using time mirrors, that's a pretty big deal, because that means that we can send information faster than time and faster than light. It's not technically faster than light, it's that we're actually bouncing things between time. So this isn't the first time that anyone has invented time travel either, by the way. They've challenged the fundamental laws of quantum physics by recognising that quantum effects happen in both directions of time, forward and back. And potentially this is what sprang out the idea about time mirrors. So how did the American scientists do it? Well, they used something called a metamaterial, which is essentially a string of metal with capacitors and things on it, which cleverly and rapidly switch the electromagnetic signal in time. Now, what's really clever about this, and something that I don't particularly understand very well, is that this was reversed in time, so it actually got sent backwards in time, as opposed to just reversing the signal. You can quite easily get an inverter that will reverse a signal, and you see it all the time on guitar pedals and stuff like that, where you play a note and it sort of plays it as if it's being faded in to the pluck. It sounds very weird. So imagine, if you will, this guitar chord being played backwards. It would sound something like this. But the key thing to remember here is that that is a forward depiction of a backwards note, which means that we are constantly moving with this constant arrow of time in one direction. What the scientists in America have done is totally reverse the polarity so that it literally sends it backwards in time, and that's a big, big deal. Einstein has already said that energy and mass are the same thing. If we can send energy backwards in time, we can send mass backwards in time. It's not a matter of whether or not it's possible anymore. It is possible. It's been proven. It's just a matter of how. And that is something that very intelligent people are going to have to try and work out. And I guarantee there are people working on it right now. So what do you think? Do you think we should be messing with time? I'm quite sceptical, but I also kind of wonder what would happen with the universe and whether or not the universe would let us do it in the first place. So please let me know your thoughts down in the comments. If you want to see this sort of thing before anybody else, become a member, and it's only £1.99 per month, and all of the links are down in the description. And in the meantime, check out this video about walking through walls. The government in America are doing some weird stuff, I guarantee it. Please click that like button, subscribe and ding that bell. I'm going to be back next time with some more magical awesomeness, but until next time, as always,
Very magical.